Welcome to Red Ice Creations Radio. Thank you for tuning in. This is Henrik Palmgren and we are coming to you from Sweden's west coast. Our website is redicecreations.com. Check it out. There you'll find our radio archive and subscriber section. We also have a news section that is updated frequently. Links and resources to important and interesting research material. Today we have our regular guest Michael Tsarion back with us on the program, and we have an important subject lined up. Our theme is the post-human world. This is about transhumanism, AI, artificial intelligence, the cyborg, genomics, and the new man. Before we dive into it, I want to mention a few of Michael's websites that you need to take a look at right away in case you're new to Michael's work. The main site is michaeltsarion.com. And from there you'll find links to taroscopes.com and also originsandoracles.com. Much more material for you to dive further into. To set the theme for our program, I want to read a quote from Genetic Armageddon by Steve Quayle. A terrifying future thunders towards mankind, an impending fate embodied by monstrous, blasphemous combinations of human and animal genetic materials, of man-machine cyborgs, and of beings not only with increased capacities and extended lifespans, but also with re-engineered morality void of compassion. This future is so abhorrent as to almost defy the imagination. These new beings and the transhumanists looking forward to their arrival will not be benevolent, just the opposite, because the goal of those creating these beings is to have them replace human beings, that the new race will be post-humans. The word post-human sounds innocuous enough until one realizes that post means after. And Michael, a lot of people studying the 2012 phenomena believe that the world will come to an end. And you say that history will come to an end, so there must be a difference. Also you say in your DVD and in the 2012 The Future of Mankind webstream that we are on a countdown to a post-human world in which man as we know him ceases to exist. That is, we may not be heading for a utopia, more a technotopia. And you've also spoken in your work of the Nephilim who visited Earth and made man in their image. You say that man may be an embryonic vampire or alien to be. Are we in an incubation stage being looked over by our masters on high, those who created the culture we grow in? Are the symptoms of evil and decay that we see all around us created by man there because man is in fact a cyborg or vampire in the making? In that case, the bizarre things taking place in the world would make perfect sense.
Well, thanks, Henrik, for having me back on. And, what you're talking about there is basically my own personal, beliefs. I've got... you're hitting on a fine line there, because I've got information that, I think that the public need to know, which is, of course, what I do professionally, and put out a message based on research and study. And then I've got my own, ruminations, and I don't really want to trouble the human race with my own thoughts and theories, but that particular one, is something that is close to my heart, and I think that a lot of people who've sat and really looked out the window or watched TV, or examined the teen, and anyone like myself, maybe who's come from a troubled spot of the world. There's a lot of violence and inhumanity of indescribable proportions, At some point you're going to wonder, what is all of this cruelty and sadism and just this, and I've seen extreme versions of it, but I would say that even if you haven't seen extreme versions, you can certainly see what's happening in today's world. Genocide, and war, mass murder taking place. It's almost like the earth is not a pleasant place to be on for a lot of people. And when you see all of this, and you look very deeply into the causes, and you study psychology and sociology and these things, it's not... I know it sounds very science fiction to a lot of people, and the science fiction has certainly even dealt expressly with this theme. But I tend to think, could it be? Could it be that, we are in fact not heading for, a perfect anthropos? We're not heading towards utopia. Even if you take on board, the idea of evolution, what are we evolving into exactly? And everyone goes, oh, man has got these, problems. He's a divided being. He's got his reason on one side. He's got his emotions on the other. We're working it out. Religion will help. Science can come up with a cure. We put a lot of our faith into a lot of these things. But, again, I would tend to look at it and say, well, let's look at it from another point of view here. If our DNA really was tampered with in ages past, and if we are, in fact, already part alien, and we might even find that human emotions are troublesome and cause more trouble than they're worth. I mean, don't we live in a culture like that, where people are sucking, all forms of pharmaceuticals into them, dying to block out the pain, block out the suffering? We're living in a situation in which people are becoming more and more dehumanized. So perhaps what's happening in 2012, see, I've never believed that the world is going to end. I do say history is going to end, and you're right, there is a difference. But could it be then that the world we know it is going to end? The human world? The world we've accepted? I mean, it is ending. It's ending right now. Most of the older generation don't even know what's happening around them. They see so much change already. And that's not just to be flippantly, cast off. Well, they're the old folks, of course, they're going to think like that. No, because, people who've even grown up in the 80s can't even recognize this world. I mean, things seem to be, changing at a very rapid pace. So I have, toyed with the idea that, look, if these aliens came here, tampered with our DNA, we are their creatures, perhaps we are in a sort of a kindergarten level of what they are. A lot of people email me, and a lot of questions have been asked, hey, look, if we're run by these Nephilim guys, why don't they wipe us out? Well, maybe one of the reasons why they haven't wiped us out is because we are their children. They literally think of us in a very condescending way, perhaps, as sort of their unruly. Remember the Freemasons have the red and blue degrees, where you're sort of like the green guy who just comes in, he's green. Well, they call you red, you see, like you're just a beginner. You're out of control. You haven't controlled your emotions.
The rough ashlar, or
yes, the rough, kempt, unhewn rock. What happens if these imperious, very detached, highly controlled masters, these people who are descendants, look down upon us and go, well, you're just the naughty children. Look at all of you in wars. Soon we'll have an Orwellian, one world order, and we'll get you calmed down, and there won't be any war anymore. And we'll even take care of all of those troublesome emotions. But my goodness, look at you guys. We turn our backs for 5 minutes, and geez, you're just all over the place. And you even believe in God and all these weird things, and you talk about spirit and brotherhood of man. Oh, you're so quaint. But one day you'll grow out of all of that, because, these are just troublesome ideas. They keep you awake at night. Don't you realize we're the Nephilim, and we, pat you on the back, and you'll go to our schools, and, slowly you'll evolve. It's just a matter of time, because we want to make you into who we are. What would happen? Wouldn't that explain what's happening in the world? Wouldn't that explain why man is so dehumanized and why he almost craves? See, to me, look, it's incomprehensible that we've had the movies that we've had the philosophers that we've had the thinkers that we've had the rock bands that we've had, and that we're still in this much mess. We have had teachers of the greatest dimension. You can't imagine greater than Tolkien. You can't imagine greater than C.S. Lewis, and I'm talking about my mentors here, right? But, what about the Who, and their music, or, their movies? What about, the bands, Pink Floyd and the Moody Blues? Are we talking the same language here? People have listened and grown up with these people's music and watched these films, and they still haven't got a faintest idea what's going on. They still can vote for the corporatization of the world and for war and vote in these tyrants. To me, you see, that needs to be explained. And it can easily be explained if you toy with the idea that it's because man is not heading towards Godhead. He's not heading towards enlightenment. He's not heading towards brotherhood of man. He never was meant to end up that way. That's all a fiction. That's all just to keep him warm at night, as sort of in his kindergarten level, He's gone off down all of these vague tangents. Talking about religion and God and brotherhood of man and peace on earth and all of this kind of thing. Bacon and Bertrand Russell, and the Huxleys, they weren't concerned about any of this. And certainly neither was Adolf Hitler and, a lot of the people we're going to talk about on this show. But the idea is, you see, that it would explain it much more if man, with his alien genes, was being cultivated to grow into something that is literally the Frankensteinian, Orwellian fulfillment that these guys are dreaming about, that we see a lot in science fiction movies, but because it's presented to us in a right brain, we kind of laugh it off.
Yeah.
You know, and even a lot of the kids' cartoons and a lot of the anime has gone into this. And I'm fascinated by those shows. I'm wondering, what are they showing us here?
What's the message there? Yeah.
Judge Dredd, you know, the list is endless. Running Man, I mean, you know, we could get into all the movies. We'd be here for the next 10 hours.
That's right.
Because this has been covered. This is not a bizarre thing. Most people listening to the show will recognize what we're talking about. But it's presented to you, not on the daily news. It's presented to you in more of a right brain way through the movies. And so for you, somehow it's not connecting. They've even shown in movies like Underworld and other films that there's our races of vampires that become super technological and they live off human blood. You know, Blake Seven and other shows that I've grown up with often have gone into this. So it's a staple of science fiction. Now, what would happen? We know that the leaders controlling the world are not human people. We know that these are not moral or good people. So what happens if they, being our caretakers, they being our parents, are slowly, they have a love-hate relationship towards us. You know, we are their children, so they don't really necessarily wipe out the entire human race, because they know that bad as we are and lost as we are going to one day be, you know, we're made in their image. And this frightens me, because this is, to me, I see mankind definitely, again, I'm saying, like I said in the beginning, that this is personally my own idea. I don't want anybody to, necessarily take this, as gospel or anything like that. But I tend to think that there could be something to this. And I've, studied Malthus and Hobbes all my life. I've studied the philosophers of John Stuart Mill and Jeremy Bentham and the Fabian Society. I love reading these guys, and these philosophies are very interesting to me. But when I take it all together with the way things are moving and with New World Order philosophy, I can't help thinking, you see, that this is what man is turning into. If I ever needed any proof, I just need to step out into the street. I don't like what human beings are becoming. I don't like the way that the youth, who are cruel, sadistic, lost, jaded, cut off, dehumanized, desensitized, sense-infatuated, you see. I don't like what I see. And I'm not going to just, dismiss it and say, that's just a phase. We are in some very, very troubled times. And the human traits, what are considered the human traits, the mores, the morals, whatever you want to call it, the virtues, are passing like, snowflakes melting in a volcano. It's just passing away before our eyes. And so my concern, therefore, is not that the world will end or that nature will end, but that the man, as we know him today and have known him in the past, this entity, this creature is going to, terminate at some point, to be replaced by something much more sinister and much more unreal.
So is this about taking away the spirit in man, the essence of where we think at least our morality lies and all of this? Is that where?
Yeah, it's the ending of virtue. It's the ending of man's. See, what is it that makes a man a man? What is it that makes human beings human? There's only two things. One is that he is free to choose to be rational or not. Right? So when people say, hey, a man's born free, right? Man's free. Yes, he's free, but that's only half the sentence. He's free to do something. That is, he's free to either use his intelligence or not to use it. That's what he's free to do. And most men that you look at today are choosing not to think. More importantly, a lot of men that you see in this today's world, the human race, is choosing not to feel.
That's right.
If you want to split hairs about it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But here's the problem with that. That which makes you truly human, if you decide not to do it anymore, for whatever reason, there's all sorts of reasons why a human being might choose to murder themselves, as we've spoken about in previous shows, or not feel, or not have emotion, or throw emotion away, or even not be conscious, or not rational. Every person has a reason for doing that. But just in general, let's just say that if you do choose to not face yourself, or because you're so self-sadistic, you've literally murdered your own emotions, or whatever terminology you want to use, you've done it because you want to avoid pain. Psychologists know this. It's a common problem. We have darker emotions. We have things that cause us great emotional distress. So we stop being introverted. We don't look at ourselves. We don't face ourselves, and we block it, either by constantly working